Please welcome the director and producer of Big Hero 6, Don Hall and Roy Conli. Don, this is an excellent jacket. This excellent Big Hero 6 jacket. I have to point it out.
Very subtle product placements for you.
And you brought one for everybody, I presume?
Not
so much. Okay.
Yeah, sorry.
Let's start talking about the genesis of this movie with you, Don, because this may not be apparent to a lot of people here, but this is a Marvel movie of sorts. Can you talk about the origins of Big Hero 6?
Yeah, it's more of a Disney movie with Marvel DNA,
we
call it. So about 3.5, 4 years ago, as I was finishing up Winnie the Pooh, I got to thinking about what my next project would be. And John Lasseter, who our boss, always has the directors look into what they're passionate about. And I got to thinking about it. And as a kid, I loved Disney animation, but I also love Marvel. It's where I really fell in love with drawing and telling stories. And so I got very excited by maybe taking a Marvel idea, Marvel characters or stories, and bringing it over into our building and doing it as an animated feature. So I pitched that idea to John, and he thought it was awesome. And so I started looking for, started making lists of different characters and different stories. And I came across this really obscure title called Big Hero 6. First, it was just a title that intrigued me, and then I looked into it further, and it was a Japanese superhero team, like the Japanese Avengers. And I thought, wow, that's really cool. And I got my hands on a couple copies of the comics, and I read them, and I just really liked the characters, I liked the tone. And not only that, but you could tell there could be a really emotional story here between a 14-year-old super genius who loses his older brother and this robot, his brother's robot, this named Baymax, who becomes sort of a surrogate big brother and a healer to Hero. So even though it was kind of obscure by Marvel standards, it had all the makings of a great animated film, and I pitched it to Lasseter and the other directors, and he greenlit it.
How scary is that, pitching to John Lasseter, by the way?
Oh, it's not scary at all.
Okay.
Well, maybe a little. No, I mean, we all are pretty comfortable working together now, and so because he really works alongside us during the making of this film. I mean, he's there from the beginning, pitching ideas, and he's the one that kind of greenlights them. But he's also there with us in by the end of the film when he's in editorial with us and looking at animation. So he's there on a big scale, but also there for the details, and it's just so awesome having a filmmaker be our boss. Yeah. It's just the best feeling in the world. So, yeah, I love John.
And Roy, if I can bring you in, I mean, you've been working at Disney now 21, almost 22 years.
21 years, yeah, it'll be 22 years in May.
Do you know
no one's counting.
Yeah, do you know the exact date?
Oh, we're counting.
May the 3rd, frankly. Yeah, I know. I remember it. Yeah, distinctly.
So, how do you get involved with movies at Disney Animation?
Well, movies are always developed from the concept of the director. So Don pitches a project, and then at some point when that project is ready to move forward, they'll bring me in. And I came in and helped out, and we had a great time. Basically, Don is a master storyteller. Chris Williams, who is the co-director, who unfortunately couldn't be here today. He's in Los Angeles trying to recover from a flu.
Yeah, Chris got the flu right before, right when we were beginning to fly out here. And so
we were fortunate. We went to Seoul first because the film's opening in Korea next week. And he stayed back because there were some marketing duties he had to do. Fortunately, we were in Seoul when he got the flu, because otherwise we'd probably be down with it right now too.
But anyway, he's here in spirit. So
he's definitely here in spirit. But yeah, it's always a director-driven, and then the producer is really there to put their vision on the screen.
So it was Dawn really that drew you onto the project, or the story, for example.
Yeah, absolutely.
Both. I guess. Okay. And can you talk about the changes? Not many people may know the comic, but Baymax, for example, in the comic book is substantially different from the version we see on screen.
Yeah.
What was it that made you want to change Baymax to what we see now, and what made you latch onto him as the sort of heart of the movie?
Well, in the comics, he actually takes a couple forms. One form is sort of this synthezoid dragon thing, and then he also is in a more kind of traditional kind of mech form. And so that was one of the big challenges early on. I knew that Baymax was central to the story of being, becoming Hero's surrogate big brother and a healer. But what form he would take, I had no clue. And other than a desire to put something on screen that we'd never seen before, that was sort of our mandate. And so I did research. I went to all the top robotics schools in the United States. I went to MIT, Harvard, and Carnegie Mellon. And I didn't really know what I was looking for. just something different, something unique. And not only that, but he had to be kind of appealing, and we had this term huggable robot that was kind of in the back of my head. And it was at Carnegie Mellon University that I met a researcher named Chris Atkinson, who was doing research in soft robotics. And essentially, they're making robots. It's very bleeding edge technology where they're going to be making robots made of vinyl that are inflatable. And essentially, they'll be used in the healthcare industry in the future. And the minute I saw that technology, I was blown away by it, and I could see where that could be our character. And so his entire persona, his personality, the idea that he's a healthcare companion, that wasn't in the comic books at all. That came from that research trip.
And Roy, can you talk about the technological advances? I know there are lots for this movie, but some of the ones that really drove Big Hero 6.
Yeah, I think the biggest one is our lighting system. We developed a whole new rendering system that we call Hyperion. And essentially, it's a ray trace system. It's we call it global illumination. And you know, our old rendering system essentially used a one bounce light system, which you put a virtual light in the computer, and there is a virtual camera, and that light would bounce off an image and then come into our virtual camera. What happens with Hyperion is that it's really more physically accurate in terms of how light acts. So you can dial in literally to infinity the number of bounces that the light will take. And it really gets us to a much more realistic place much quicker. And it also gives us much more time to iterate and really make it perfect. It's a little bit more like lighting from live action instead of doing stage lighting.
And Don mentioned a number of research trips, a lot of deep research on this movie. Do you, as producer, to get to go on these trips to Tokyo, to San Francisco?
Yeah. On this one, I did not go on the trips, although I did do a lot of the searching for people to come in and talk with us. One of the big things, because we're dealing with loss, was we brought in psychiatrists and some social workers to talk about teenage loss.
Oh, really? Yeah.
Oh, yeah. It was really important, and whenever we're working on a story, research is the primary asset that we use, and so it was really a mind-opening experience, this film.
And obviously at Disney, you have a fairly big shadow. There are 50. This is the 54th movie. There are 53 before that. It's a movie that deals with loss. You have the likes of Bambi, The Lion King. Do you feel that weight on your shoulders when you're making a movie like this with themes like this?
Maybe a little bit. I mean, essentially we're all big Disney fans. That's what drew us to work there. We all kind of have similar stories. At one point in our childhood, we saw a Disney animated film and fell in love with the medium, fell in love with the idea of working there, and chased that dream down until it happened. So I'm not sure if I would call it a weight. I would call it more just a healthy respect for our legacy. And yeah, actually, inspirations, that's a good word for it. And so you just want to make sure that what you're creating, the story you're telling, can sit on the shelf next to all those classics.
Absolutely. Let's meet Baymax now. We have a clip from the film. Don, I don't know if you want to set this up.
Yeah, this happens about, I'd say, probably about the beginning of Act 2. And so what has happened? Well, we meet our character, Hiro Hamada, 14-year-old super genius. But he's essentially kind of wasting his gift doing back alley robot fights where there's illegal gambling and this kind of that. He's kind of a hustler. And his older brother Tadashi, who's also a roboticist, wants to get him interested in going to college and stop wasting his time in back alleys bot fighting gangsters. So he inspires Hiro by taking him to his college and meeting his friends who are working on all these really cool projects. And Hiro does get inspired to go to college. And so he applies himself, he makes an invention, and there's sort of a expo type of thing to get into the school. He presents his invention, which are these really cool things called microbots. And he does get into school, and it's this really great feeling. His brother's proud of him. Hiro's feeling really good. And right on the heels of this, there is a fire in the expo hall, and Tadashi rushes in there. Tadashi is Hiro's older brother. Rushes in there to save somebody and ends up dying in an explosion. And so Hiro gives up on going to college, and he's really in sort of the throes of depression when we meet Tadashi's robot, Baymax, comes to the forefront here.
That may be the most thorough clip setup I've ever had here. That's amazing. Enjoy the clip.
I've seen the movie a few times.
Thank you.
Great stuff. Hands up who wants a Baymax.
Oh.
There you go. Yeah, I'll do it
we
as
all
well. Might as well. Are we close to getting a Baymax? How
I
close?
don't think we're quite there yet. It's going to be a few years. But you know what's interesting is I've been getting emails from some of the scientists, that consulted on the film, and they've been going to lectures. And Baymax is now becoming sort of the pitch person for soft robotics. So it's come full circle. Like they inspired me, and now this creation is sort of inspiring them to hopefully get more funding for this technology.
Chris Atkinson, who was the chief roboticist who we met with, was very excited. We invited him to our wrap party. And when he saw the film, he thought, "Oh boy, my funding is going up." So it was a good thing.
It's such a wonderful pro-science movie. Was that part of the appeal?
Well, for me, what I really love is the fact that it's a pro-intelligence movie. These kids are all really smart, and their superpower is really their technology and their brains. And I think it's a great message.
Okay, now if you have any questions for Don and Roy, put your hands up. Wow, right away, right here in the front row. We have microphones coming round.
Hi, first of all, I've seen it. It's absolutely amazing. Thank you very much.
Oh, thank you.
That idea of going full circle, Marvel influenced you. I was wondering, is there any opportunity for you influencing Marvel and creating a new series of comics?
That's actually a good question. I don't know. I mean, never broached the subject with Quesada, but it's certainly not an unappealing idea. It's just we haven't had time. We just finished the movie. Now we've been promoting it, but kind of cool.
Yes,
so
please.
We'll see what happens.
Okay, thank you very much. Any more questions for? Oh, right here at the back.
I wanted to ask, how do you select your stories, for the next project? And are you gonna make a sequel of this movie?
How do you select your stories?
The question of every meeting.
Big Hero 7.
Yeah, well, yeah, we don't know what I don't know. We don't know what to call it, so I don't know if there'll be a sequel. Can't put another number in it.
That's the barrier.
That'll dictate our decision. So as far as selecting the stories, I kind of went into it a little bit. It really comes from the directors. All of our pool of directors are tasked with generating stories, and we never pitch one idea. John asks us to pitch at least 3. And the idea being that you don't put all your emotional eggs in one basket. You spread it out. And the exercise of trying to pick 3 ideas or come up with 3 ideas that you're passionate about inevitably leads to one kind of poking through as the one that's the best one to go forward with. So essentially it's all the directors that are coming up with the stories.
And in terms of a sequel, we would go through the same process. We would pitch a sequel with other films. If the sequel idea was something that was interesting, we would move forward with it. But seriously, we've been running around the world opening this. We worked like dogs getting it done. We literally 5 days before we opened at the Tokyo Film Festival, we got it done. So we're going to take a little vacation, and then we're going to figure out what we're going to do.
Big vacation, not a little vacation.
So
I'm the producer, a little vacation.
What is that? And Roy, can you talk about your involvement as well in the story process? What's that like for a producer at Disney?
It's great because I'm in the room pretty much with the story team all the way. I actually come from kind of a development background, so that's probably one of my favorite aspects of the film. But I'm pretty much involved from, putting the writing team together and getting the story team together and all the teams. I'm really responsible for making communication happen within the project. And I work with it all the way through till the end. And marketing, I'll be working on this until we get the DVD out, which comes out sometime in the end of March, and then that's when I get my vacation.
But Don, you're okay. You're off pretty much now.
No. We still have more promotion to do, and we were very fortunate. We got nominated for a BAFTA, so we'll be coming back and attending the BAFTAs, and also got nominated for an Oscar. So there's all of that kind of cool stuff to
and
do.
we open in China on February the 28th.
Oh
so
yeah,
wow.
That's kind of the end of the delivery.
Any more questions for Don and Roy? Yes, please, here in the front row. Thank you.
Yeah, right there, guys. I was basically just wondering, obviously you see at Carnegie Mellon they were kind of working on a lot of soft robotics. What were some of the other universities, such as MIT, kind of working on? Say, if Baymax wasn't inspired by soft robotics, what could we potentially have seen kind of in this movie if it was inspired by another topic of robotics?
That's a good question.
Oh, you mean if I didn't go with soft robotics, what other kind of form?
Yes.
Well,
Interesting.
The one thing we did know, and we should talk about the uncanny valley.
Yeah. Well, there's a certain term in robotics called the uncanny valley where, and I saw some of these robots where they get too humanoid and they get really creepy. And so we definitely wanted to stay away from that. And that's why we chose to go really simple and kind of elegant with Baymax's design. You know, we wanted him to be kind of almost a blank slate. I mean, there's not a lot there to express with. It really challenged our animators to come up with a way for this character to express. And subsequently, I think you actually kind of project yourself onto Baymax because he is such a blank slate. As far as other technology goes, that's I'm not sure because I just fell in love with soft robotics, so I can't imagine. Sorry, I'm having a tough time imagining what like another version of Baymax. The microbots kind of came from that as well. I mean, I did see. Well, early on we were looking at nanobots. And I don't know if you guys know what nanobots are, but they're basically robots that are built on a molecular level. And I thought it was really cool technology, but not very cinematic because you can't see them. So it wouldn't really work. So it became the microbots. And so I kind of combined the idea of microbots that we saw at, I think it was MIT, actually, with this swarm technology that I saw on YouTube. Actually, I saw scientists doing, programming swarms to kind of, drones to fly around all in synchronized orbit. So I thought I kind of combined those two technologies. So that was just another thing I found on the research trip.
There was something about Baymax and his simplicity that really played into our hand in terms of animation. And our animation team is so strong. And they had a catchphrase that they used. It was unimation for Baymax, and less was more. That was the idea there. So it worked to our advantage.
We've got time for a couple of last questions. Let's go here. There's a lady here in the second row.
So I've seen the film already as well, but I was wondering, could you talk about the process of developing the secondary characters like Fred, Go-Go, Honey? They're all so great, and how did you come up with them because they're such individualistic characters?
Well, thank you. We kind of had sort of a broad stroke idea of the characters, and then once we really start refining them in the writing and the storyboarding process, but it's really not until you get the voice talent that they really come alive. And we auditioned several actors for each of these roles, and I feel like we got the perfect people to play these characters. And essentially, they brought so much of themselves to the character. Like Genesis Rodriguez is Honey Lemon. She was on an all-girl robotics team when she was in high school, so she's really smart, but she's also very sweet and innocent and kind of bubbly and a little shy at times. And so, and Jamie Chung is kind of tough as nails like Go-Go. I wouldn't mess with her. And T.J. Miller is Fred. He kind of just is, I don't know if you guys watch Silicon Valley, but yeah, it's pretty awesome. And what we love, too, is that, and Damon is Wasabi. He's not built like him, but, he definitely has the personality of him. So what we love, and Chris and I both love as directors, is when actors come in and they're not just reading lines. It's not just a paycheck. They come in very passionate about the characters and have ideas for the characters and will improv. Because we spend a lot of time crafting scenes. I mean, we work like crazy writing and storyboarding these scenes and getting them just so. But then it's awesome to get down in the recording room and kind of just be free and let the actors, we'll record the scene as written, but we'll also encourage them to go off script and bring anything they can. Like TJ, you guys haven't seen the movie yet, but we asked him to come up with Fred's theme song on the fly, and he literally sang about a 10-minute version of Fred's theme song. That was amazing, and we could only use a little bit of it in the movie because it was too long, and there were parts of it that were just a little naughty, but it was hilarious. And so we just love actors like that can bring a lot to the table.
Yeah, we never use voice actors. We always use actors. We always want people who are going to bring something to the role. And this has been, these guys are real friends of the production too. They've been so helpful in terms of getting the word out about the film, and it's been delightful.
Is there any chance of hearing the full 10-minute Fred Stairway to Heaven style bit of backing music?
The album cut. Yeah, it'd be. We talked about it. Yeah, we'll have to see. We'll have to see on the DVD if we can squeeze that on there.
Christmas #1, I'm saying. Okay, there's time for one last question. There's this lady right here. Thank you.
You talked earlier about your research projects, and obviously from the producing and everything else, you're kind of captain of the ship, king of communication. What's the sort of timescales, and so how long did the research take, and then how long are you in pre-production, and sort of how many iterations of Baymax have you had at this point?
Well, this project was very quick. It was 3.5 years from concept to completion. That generally doesn't happen. Usually you're in development and your concept is approved like 1.5 years into the process. So this one went very quickly. Baymax we found very quickly.
Yeah, he came together. It was lightning in a bottle after that research trip, and from even his design. I mean, we didn't iterate too much. It kind of came out of the box. Shun Kim designed him, and the big question was whether he would have a mouth. And John felt like, no, you don't need it. Just go with the 2 eyes, And at one point he had a little heart, where his chip port is. That was about the 2 modifications we made. That was it.
And seriously, the weekend that Winnie the Pooh came out, he was off on the research trip and found Baymax. And that was 3.5 years ago. Yeah. So I have to say, one of the great things about working for Disney is here's a guy who did Winnie the Pooh. I just produced Tangled back in 2010, and we're doing a superhero film. And I think the fact that we have that kind of freedom and that kind of trust from the studio to just, it's all about the inspiration. It's all about the vision. And if we have the vision, we can tell any story we want.
And as far as just how long do you spend in research, I mean, you kind of do that throughout the movie. Like anytime a new idea comes up that needs researching, we'll do it. We'll bring in experts or whatever. As far as at the beginning of the show, I probably spent, maybe 6 months? Easily 6 months, maybe a little longer, just doing research. I went to Tokyo, San Francisco, and just met with particle physicists and roboticists and people who are infinitely smarter than me. It was at least 6 months to 8 months, of just research. So.
That's a lovely note on which to end. Big Hero 6 is out on January 30th. Thank you so much for coming. Thanks for your questions. Thanks, of course,
Thank
Don
you,
Hall,
guys.
Roy Conli. Thank you, guys.
Thanks,
great.
everybody.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.